My Democratic source tonight is Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren, who you saw questioning Hegseth there. Is it safe to assume you are a no on Pete Hegseth?
Yeah, it's safe to assume that. And it's also safe to assume that when he says he has never disparaged women in the military, he's just trying to see what he can get away with. Because we've got the video, we've got him in print, when he has just said as recently as November of 2024, straight up, women do not belong in combat. He has said they don't belong in the military at various points, but do not belong in combat. Not qualified, not well, if they can run or if they can do this or if they can do that. They do not belong in combat. In fact, in his book, do you know what he says they should be doing? Cooking.
Senator Joan Ernst is a female veteran on the Senate Armed Services Committee. She came out tonight saying that she will vote yes on Pete Hegseth.
You know, look, I got to figure there are about 250,000 women who are on active duty military service right now who are feeling pretty lonely that there is not a single Republican so far who will stand up for them and instead are willing to pass along a person to be the Secretary of Defense who has said straight up that he doesn't want to see women in combat and doesn't think that women make good soldiers.
Can I ask you, and maybe I saw this wrong, so please tell me, but I was there in the hearing room today. Reporters kind of sit behind the guests, but a clear view of the senators asking their questions. When Senator Joan Ernst had her 7 minutes, and she first entered in a letter of praise for Pete Hegseth into the record, you seem to have a reaction to that as you were watching, she was the senator that everyone was essentially watching.
Well, obviously because of Joni's history and frankly because of the excellent work she has done for so long on behalf of our active duty women serving in combat, serving in other roles in the military. I think everyone was very much focused on her. But as I said, where we've ended up right now is there's not a single Republican who's willing to stand up for the women in active duty service.
Was Pete Hegseth's pledge to Senator Joan Ernst in her line of questioning to appoint a special advisor at the Pentagon to deal with sexual assault and prevention, was that sufficient for you?
No, and let me explain why. He has spent 12 years that we can document saying the same thing over and over, really no variation in it, about how women do not belong in combat, it's lowering standards to have women in combat, that straight up, I mean, these are his words, straight up, that women should not serve in combat over and over. And then, in this very short period of time, when he gets nominated, he suddenly reverses that by 180 degrees. And he can't explain what's different today than a month ago when he was saying something entirely different. And that means, if that's the case, it kind of sounds a lot like he'll say whatever he needs to say to make it through the confirmation. And then, one presumes, he goes back to saying what he really believes.
And do you think he will take action on that? What is your concern? I mean, because with her, yes, he's basically on a glide path to confirmation if nothing huge pops up in the next 6 days. Are you arguing that he'll change his position or he'll go back to his original position when he is in charge of the Pentagon?
I think it's every part of this. Keep in mind, not every decision, in fact, the overwhelming majority of decisions that he makes, if he is the Secretary of Defense, are things that are made in public. Most of this will happen in private. That's how many things happen. When opportunities are taken away from people, when people are shut out, when people are not given a chance to be able to do what they can do and to compete. 300,000 women have served in combat since 9/11. They've served in Iraq and in Afghanistan. And Pete Hegseth has insulted every single one of them.
Democrats today, in the line of questioning that you have from your colleagues, do you think your party was effective in questioning Pete Hegseth?
Well, what is your measure of effective? Did we cause the Republicans to say, you're right, we're going to turn our backs on Pete Hegseth? Or more importantly, we're going to stand up to Donald Trump? Nope, not a single one said they were willing to stand up to Donald Trump. Notwithstanding Pete Hegseth's history of being drunk at work events, notwithstanding the credible claims of sexual assault, notwithstanding what he said about 250,000 women who now serve in the active duty military, notwithstanding the fact that he has run only 2 very small organizations and run them both into the ground financially, notwithstanding the fact that in that hearing he could not answer basic questions about his constitutional oath and responsibilities, or basic questions about whether he even supports the Geneva Convention. I mean, these are things that, this is about the job of the Secretary of Defense. What the Democrats did, and I think did very well, is that we asked the right questions and put it out there in front of the American people. We wanted a second round of questioning so we could ask even more. We wanted to see the FBI report.
Right, and
we wanted to make more of these reports public.
More questions were denied by the chairman, despite two requests from the ranking member for Democrats. And we've seen that in some past hearings. He said that was an agreement. But on the FBI report, rank and file members did not get to actually see that. The chairman did and the ranking member, which they argued is precedent. That is typically the course. There have been some exceptions. Should Democrats have fought harder? Well, did you want the ranking Democrat to fight harder to get access to that FBI report?
Let's remember that when there was a credible claim of a problem with alcohol and the kind of risk that would be for a Secretary of Defense who has to be ready to answer the phone at 3 in the morning and make split-second decisions, that was John Hightower. And they gave the FBI report not just to everybody on the committee, but to everybody in the entire United States Senate. Because ultimately, these are job interviews for some of the most important jobs in our country. And what the Democrats are asking for is let us at least see all of the information.
But did Democrats ask enough, I guess, is my question.
Well, certainly the chair of the committee asked at the beginning of the hearing in the formal process, which is what he should do. I've certainly called for it publicly. Others have called for it publicly. And frankly, I think it's pretty outrageous that the Republicans want to keep hiding that, because it takes you back to this fundamental question. This is a job interview. If you think there's nothing in that FBI report that the American people should be worried about, then put the FBI report out there where at least the senators on the committee can see it.
And the Trump team felt that the FBI report essentially had no negative information.
Well, then show it to us. If there's no negative information, they should be willing to frame it and hang it on the wall.
So with Joni Ernst saying she's a yes to Pete Hegseth, that seems to seal his confirmation. You do have many other hearings ahead of you, though. What are the takeaways for your party here? Because the Republicans stay united. They can pretty much get anyone confirmed. What should the Democrats' takeaways be for how to strategize for future hearings for Pam Bondi for Attorney General tomorrow, or Kash Patel for FBI Director, or any of these other cabinet nominees?
Well, look, our job is not to roll over and play dead. Our job is to do our homework, which it was clear that we had done, and to come and to hold these nominees accountable. At the end of the day, we all take an oath in the United States Senate, an oath to the Constitution, and part of our responsibilities are advise and consent. How we execute on that oath, in part, is that we do our jobs in these hearings. Now, if Republicans want to say that they're going to go ahead and vote for Pete Hegseth, it is their vote. They legally can do that. They are entitled to do that. But I think it's important to bring this in front of the American people and make it very, very clear who Donald Trump is putting in office to determine the future of the United States of America. When Pete Hegseth demeans women the way that he has, when there are questions about sexual assault, when he has never managed anything bigger than a 50-person operation, and he's about to take on something with a $850 billion budget and more than 3 million employees, when that's the case, and that's who Donald Trump is putting in charge, then understand our national defense is put at risk. What we do right now is we point that out as loudly and as clearly as we can.
Senator